watching Rogers TV. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hello, and my name's Rob MacArthur, the host of Helping Durham Region here on Rogers TV Durham. Thanks for dropping in and watching the show. My guest today is Manny Lavender. He is the Executive Director of the MG Society of Canada. Welcome to the show, Manny.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Right, and I'm really interested because I honestly have not heard of your society or what MG is. And could you give us a little information sort of about MG?
Yeah, Myasthenia Gravis, MG for short, is a rare muscle disease. Up until 2021, I'd never heard of it because that's when I was diagnosed with MG. And it hits people in various ways. I started feeling odd about 10 years ago where I felt I had Bell's palsy, thought I had a stroke. I was slurring my speech. I started losing muscle functionality, walking, talking, breathing, chewing, any kind of inging. And then multiple GPs, multiple specialists, and I finally got to a specialist at Toronto General, and I got diagnosed with periphery neuropathy, and then secondary is MG. And now I'm part of the MG Society. It was established approximately 14 years ago by a gentleman named Cap Cowan, and he passed away just under 2 years ago as a result of MG. And I've become the leader with others across Canada. Being a rare disease, we're a small group, but we fall under the umbrella of muscular dystrophy. Okay. It is a rare muscle-related disease. Okay. There's approximately 40,000 of us across Canada, about 10%. Do the math. We got about 40 million people in Canada. Yes. So that is what is considered or classified as a rare disease. So we are doing everything we can to create awareness of the disease, the signs and symptoms, because many of us, like myself, close to 8 years before I was diagnosed, which meant my lifestyle changed. I couldn't work anymore. I just couldn't do a lot of inging, as I would classify it as. Right. So it changes your life.
Right. But I mean, you took that, some would say a tragedy or, what happened, and you've turned it around and you're getting involved in the society. So what sort of drove you to do that?
My background in community awareness, community development, volunteering. I used to be a triathlete. I used to be a scout leader, ice hockey official at the highest level. So I'm very community driven. So I was approached by an individual on the board about a year and a bit ago, just through, a series of weird, meetings. And he asked me if I wanted to participate in the board. And that was when I wasn't quite ready, health-wise. So then I heard of Cap Cowan's passing. And I thought, okay, physically, I'm getting closer. So then I thought I could make a difference, because a lot of what I do in my life is if I feel I can make a difference with a cause, I will get involved.
Great.
So that's what got me involved in the MG community. And I didn't sign up for this. I didn't envision hitting my 60s with this disease. No. But I've determined that I'm going to make the best of my 60s because my 50s were a little suspect. Right. So that's what got me involved in this community.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. The interesting thing, I mean, there's people watching probably, and, they might have some signs or some, going through some things and like yourself. So what any advice, like what they should be looking for, or, like, I mean, generality, I'm certainly have to go get it checked out, but are there some real signs that, yeah, you might want to go see a
There
doctor?
are any deviations around muscle weakness, strength, endurance.
Mhm.
It starts. It can start in your eyes. It's called ocular MG,
Okay.
or vascular MG, or generalized MG. So, and that's the challenge, that literally everyone is different.
Right.
Some of us become hospitalized. I never got to that point, thank God. But go, the challenge is there's very few specific tests that a
Right.
neuromuscular specialist, a GP, would not have access to the test.
Right.
Neurologists would not have access to the test. Many people will get diagnosed through their obstetrician, and then they get sent to a specialist. So, because it's a rare disease, it's really hard to pinpoint and properly determine what it is you have. For me, I had to document and take the documentation into various doctors to say, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm feeling, what do you think? And many doctors dismissed the signs and symptoms because they didn't know about it.
Right.
Um, Speaking to pharmacists and general practitioners, they have a few exam questions in their seventh year of becoming a doctor, and that's it.
Mhm.
So if you specialize in a neurology section, then you become a little more privy to the rare diseases pertaining to muscle.
Okay.
But that's where it takes people the fortitude, the drive to just keep asking the questions.
Right. Till you get the answers.
That's right.
So, being that it's a rare disease, is treatment expensive, or is there any treatment? Is there anything that can be done, or anything like
Oh,
that?
there's lots of treatment. It is not curable, but it is highly treatable. I'm on a very strict treatment plan, followed up and supported by physiotherapy, proper nutrition. We actually have what we call a medical crisis card that outlines all the medications that we should not take as an MG
Okay.
patient. And we're all different, but for me, magnesium,
Okay.
it's like kryptonite for me.
Wow.
So you start to realize in processed foods what different types of chemicals and phosphates are in processed foods. So dark chocolate, I cannot eat dark chocolate anymore. When I did, a lovely friend of ours made some dark chocolate cake for us, and I could barely walk for a week.
Wow.
That was the last time I've had a slice of dark chocolate cake.
Wow. I mean,
And I love dark chocolate cake, but I cannot eat it.
well, it sort of reminds me of my grandfather when he had gout. Whenever he had meat, he would suffer
That's
for
right.
days, weeks.
But
And sometimes he's going to do it because he just wanted to have a steak, but he would put
yeah,
up with the pain.
but in our case, if you have vascular MG, it could get into your lymph nodes, you could get into your lungs, and you're in the ER because
Yeah.
you're not able to breathe.
Right.
Your muscles are getting so tight and restricted that your breathing core area is becoming restricted, so you won't be able to breathe. In my case, I just couldn't walk, and I couldn't grip, and I couldn't lift things over my head, and I had a hard time, move my head around. But that was a year and a half ago.
Right.
So now I've shed the wheelchair, I've shed the walker.
Nice.
A lot of things that I needed to rely on, I've parked it and packed it away in my garage, never to hopefully ever see again.
Right.
So
yeah. So I mean, if somebody has some issues with their muscle, the first step is to go to the GP and say, maybe I need to go see somebody about this, because as you said, some GPs might not even know about it.
Yeah,
You've got to start with a referral as a rule.
you got to start. You cannot just walk into a specialist.
Right.
So really pay attention. Really get good at advocating, taking very succinct and clear notes, and doing a lot of research. And not relying on social platforms to gain research and scientific information.
Really? Oh no.
I can't emphasize that enough. Go to legitimate doctors, people that have studied it and have a basis of information to provide to you. But that's the challenge, because we're a rare disease and there's only so many specialists that have this acute awareness that you can get to.
Right.
And there's really not many. Like Ontario is the biggest population, and there's maybe a dozen.
Right.
And we've got just under 16 million people in our province.
Right. Now, is healthcare sort of funding up for this? They cover the expenses, the travel?
It's hit and miss. I have private healthcare.
Right.
So the majority of my treatment is covered.
Right.
But that is not the norm.
Right.
There are studies out there that you can get aligned with, but the downside is if your specialist is not aligned with a teaching research hospital,
right,
you will not have access. You won't.
Yeah.
There's only 5 research training hospitals in Ontario, and the others, you just won't have access to them.
Right.
So I'm very fortunate that my team is at Toronto General and is one of the world's top research hospitals for specialized neurology in the world.
Right. Well, I know I do taxes, or have done taxes, and I know, your travel and parking and anything like that, you can deduct on your taxes. So there's some advantage there. And I think this would probably be something you'd apply for a disability tax credit. So there's some advantages from that.
There certainly are, but it's a matter of navigating and finding it out on your own.
Yeah.
And I've had numerous conversations, and I've been part of webinars and studies and workshops. And the specialists, they really want to just focus on the treatment and the diagnosis. And it takes up a lot of their resources doing the work that we're trying to do with the MG Society of Canada, that
right,
we're the ones interacting with patients and caregivers. So it takes as they say, it takes a family, or it takes a village to raise a child. And
yes,
it's very similar to a rare disease. It takes the community to support one individual, whether you're an adult or a child.
Right.
And something I was going to add, that I was part of.
Well, I want to hold you right there, because we're going to take a break, but you've got to hold that thought, because when we come back, we're going to talk about that, but we want to get right into what the MG Society of Canada does, because this is really interesting.
Great, thank you.
All right. So we're talking to Manly Lavender. He's the executive director of the MG Society of Canada. You're watching Helping Durham Region. My name's Rob MacArthur, and we'll be back right after this.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
It's been a long time coming.
You don't win it to keep it, you win it to be a part of its history.
Always knew.
Always hard to see the difference between winning and losing.
The quest for the hardest trophy to win in sports.
With clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
This is Rogers TV.
Hi there, and welcome back to Helping Durham Region. I'm your host, Rob MacArthur. My guest today is Manny Lavender. He's the Executive Director of the MG Society of Canada. We've been having a really interesting talk about something, a lot of people don't know about. So, Manny, please, go on what you wanted to talk about.
I was going to say that I was invited as a virtual participant at the CORD conference, which is the Canadian Organization for Rare Diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So all the rare diseases in Canada come together. This was in Calgary. I was not able to attend in person, but I did virtually. But one of the main takeaways from the conference was the economic hit that rare disease patients and caregivers have.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it impacts the Canadian economy with rare diseases in Canada, Rob? What do you think?
I just have the common diseases, cancer and diabetes. So so there are lots of funding, a lot of things, but I don't know how that would affect the economy.
$1.5 billion hit on the economy. And the reason that number is so high is take me, for example, I'm no longer working full time.
Right.
I'm no longer going to the deli. I'm no longer buying new clothes and
Mm-hmm.
on and on and on. Secondly, caregivers. My wife retired somewhat early from her teaching career because
Mm-hmm.
I was always having to go to appointments.
Right.
I couldn't go to appointments on my own.
Right.
So take her out of the full-time equation. Take me out of the full-time equation.
Yeah.
Multiply that by tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. That's where you get that number from.
Wow.
And for MG, it's just shy of $1 million per person.
Wow.
So I'm not just focusing on patient-to-patient care. I'm trying to rely on my past experience as a business consultant to communicate to businesses to say, we walk amongst you and we are impacting your ability to function.
Right.
From an economic standpoint.
Right.
So it'll make all of us better by making us more aware that whether it's MG or any other rare disease, that we are out there and we need a collective effort to make us live better, work better. Employers modifying their work conditions so people can go back to work. Offering them mental health support because I've lost my identity. Mm-hmm. I used to be an ice hockey official. I used to be a lot of different things, and I can no longer do that.
Right.
So there's a lot of these networks, a lot of these community programs that we're relying on, and we didn't even realize we needed to.
Right.
So that's why, for example, I'm on your show today.
Right.
To say we're here, we're amongst you, and we're a rare disease, but we're impacting everyone's ability to make decisions from an economic standpoint as well as a health standpoint.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, if you think of COVID, everybody talked about the impact of COVID, but that was a relatively short time. But you're talking people are living with this for multiple years, and it's affecting the economy every year, not just for a short span. Then it's over.
Right. That's
it doesn't stop.
I'm always going to have MG.
Yeah.
But that's not going to go away. It's not going to just disappear one day. I wish it would, but it's not.
Yeah.
So all of us have to live within our abilities. And what I'm doing is I'm putting in place all these strategies that I used to use when I was a triathlete or another type of athlete, that my day is getting up, functioning, and being productive. Where
Right.
as an athlete, I would go out and train in preparation for a race and nutrition and all of that. Now I'm using the same strategies to apply to my daily routine of getting up and being physically active as much as I can and contributing to my society as much as I can, and MG society and my local community as well. So it's a matter of switching the mindset to still adjust and apply yourself in your community, even though that you have this rare disease.
Right. Well, let's get a bit into the society itself and what it does.
Yeah,
Because it's very important and needed.
We have what they call a working board. We have 4 directors, literally spread across Canada. We do a lot of peer-to-peer support, phone calls, emails, Zoom chats, Teams chats, where we put on monthly or weekly sessions, mental health, nutrition, whatever. June is our big month. It's actually MG Awareness Month across the world. Okay. So we have walks planned. We have, I've actually got the CN Tower lit up in our colors on the 3rd of June. I've got a golf activity going on in Durham on the 22nd of June. I've got a walk planned in Port Perry on the 20th of June. So there's a lot of activities that we're all trying to do, but there's very few of us. Like I said, there's 4 of us on the board. There's myself and a handful of other people spread across Canada.
Right.
So we're really trying to build up this community advocacy group where we can actually do more tangible outings. So people that have MG or people that want to support, whether you're a caregiver or just a nurturer, they'll have a place to go and meet, whether it's virtual or it's in person.
Right. So would it be like we talked a little bit earlier about somebody that might have some of the symptoms you're talking about?
Yeah.
Could one of the first contacts be the MG Society of Canada?
Absolutely.
Direction?
Absolutely. They could call us or call an individual. We have a website. We all have our contact information there. And they could call us and say, this is what I'm feeling. What should I do? And it's going to be exactly what I'm saying to you. Document, write it down. Take someone with you. Take someone with you, because if you're feeling in that way, when you're at the doctor's office, you're going to be vulnerable. You're going to feel weak, and you're going to need someone to listen and write down everything that the doctor's offering you, so that when you're back home and you're rested, you can actually process what the doctor shared with you. So I can't underestimate the importance of documentation and trusting legitimate research outlets like our website, Muscular Dystrophy of Canada. They have a whole division dedicated to MG. The MG Society, the MG Foundation of America, they have this elaborate, massive network because they're America and they have hundreds of millions of people involved. We don't have that resource. So there's those types of resources that I would highly recommend going to and searching out a neuromuscular specialist with the support of your GP.
Okay. So, I mean, you're a charity and rare disease. Like you said, not many people on the board. How are you funded? I mean, I know a lot of people are volunteers. I get that, but there are expenses for.
We at this point we get individual donations.
Okay.
And we're working towards corporate donations. We're working on. Well, I'm working on grants to help us offset cyber development. We're currently in the process of rebranding our website, rebranding ourselves. I am utilizing Durham College co-op placement students to offset, hiring people because we don't have those resources. So we've had a student since January, and we've got 2 new students working on a website for the month of April and May.
Right.
So I've built that relationship back up because that was my previous world.
Yes.
So we're heavily relying on in-kind support, donations from individuals, and corporate donations.
Right. Right. And I mean, the one way to get that support, and I know I talked to a lot of organizations, is raising the awareness, letting people know, hey, we're here. And as more people know, there's more, maybe, boots on the ground kind of help, donations kind of help, or just, like you said, in kind. And certainly that's where you've got to go with that. I mean, what's your biggest challenge right now? I mean,
our biggest challenge is developing that community awareness. Where in the past year, since I've been involved, I've literally gone door to door to pharmacists, doctors, physiotherapists, dropping off our brochures, requesting lunch and learns, going up to, I live in the North Durham area, and I'll go to a clinic and drop in and request a meeting with the doctors or a medical practitioner. And they're a doctor, and they're not even aware. Right. They've kind of heard of it. They might have had a patient. So really just going door to door, all of us that are part of the team, just doing the little things like putting a tagline on your email. When you're sending out a friendly email to a colleague or an associate or a neighbor or a friend. So they're reading that and saying, oh, it's just not Manly. It's actually Manly, business consultant and executive director to MG. Oh, what's MG?
Exactly.
There you go. It all starts with one conversation, and then it builds and builds and builds.
Yeah, well, and I know people, from being involved in Rotary and Legions and other community organizations, those are the groups to go talk to, because not only can they donate, they can help. They're really good that way. So, and you have a website.
Yes.
It's probably what's the website?
www.mgcanada.org.
And so they can get there and get a lot of information and get your contact information and things like that. So what's the concentration? We got just a couple minutes left. So what's the hard to talk, concentration of your time, in the next 3 to 6 months?
Focusing on business development. We're part of the Scugog Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So going to, outreach activities, all those types of things, and just spend, like each of us, we have a director in St. Catharines, a director in Orleans, Ontario, myself, Mississauga, British Columbia, down east. So just getting all of us to embrace the community and get out in your community, whether it's virtually or in person. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's one good thing. I mean, with the COVID, people really embrace the virtual way, and and especially for new charities where you don't have the money to go travel to speak anywhere, so you can appear at Rotary meetings or Legion meetings virtually, and talk to them and try to get funding and help. So wow,
it's really just creating that web of networking and educating people and putting yourself out there. And that's one of the biggest challenges, speaking of challenges, is embracing that we have a disability, it is a rare disease, and in navigating the style of communication, which is going to be most full and effective.
Right. I hate to stop you, but we're run out of time, but we're definitely going to have to get you back. We could have talked for hours. Anyways, my guest has been Manny Lavender. He is the executive director of the MG Society of Canada. And Manny, thank you very much for
You're welcome. Thank you very much for the time, Rob.
All right. And you are watching Helping Durham Region. My name's Rob MacArthur, your host, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Connect with us by visiting our website or